Salam, ጤና ይስጥልኝ. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Greetings to you all all of you who are joining us from around the world. Thank you for joining us for this fourth part symposium on Ethiopian media for peace. And today is week 3. And today's specific topic is reducing hate speech and promoting peace dialogue on social media. And once again, thank you for joining us on this important discussion and important symposium, because we believe that media has a very strong power and we are here to use it for the peace building process in Ethiopia. My name is Metishwa Yilma. I am your moderator, and let me just give you what we have been going through the last few weeks, or the last 2 weeks. The first week, we covered effects of hate speech and disinformation on intergroup conflict. Second week, we covered media role in confronting hate speech and disinformation and peace building. And now today we are going to be talking about reducing hate speech and promoting peace dialogue on social media. ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልን ተመልካቾቻችን፣ በዓለም ዙሪያ ሆናችሁ ልትከታተሉ ይሄንን ሲምፖዚየም ከኛ ጋር ስለመጣችሁ በጣም እናመሰግናለን። በያላችሁበት እንዴት አደራችሁ፣ እንዴት ዋላችሁ፣ እንዴት አመሻችሁ? ዛሬ እንግዲህ ሶስተኛውን ሳምንት የሲምፖዚየሙን ክፍል ጀምረናል። ባለፉት 2 ሳምንታት ይሄ የ4 ክፍል ሲምፖዚየም የኢትዮጵያ ሚዲያ ለሰላም በሚል የምናደርገው ሲምፖዚየም ነው። ይሄንን ሲምፖዚየም ደግሞ የመጀመሪያ ሳምንት ላይ የጥላቻ ንግግርና የውሸት ዘገባ በተለይ ደግሞ በቡድኖች መካከል የሚፈጠረውን ቀውስና ግጭት እንዴት ነው የሚያፋፍመው የሚለውን ተመልክተናል። በሁለተኛ ሳምንት ደግሞ የሚዲያ በተለይ ከዚህ በፊት የነበሩ ተሞክሮችን አይተን የጥላቻ ንግግሮችንና የውሸት ዘገባዎችን በማሰራጨት እንዲሁም ደግሞ የሰላም ግንባታ ላይ ያለውን አስተዋጽኦ ተመልክተናል። ዛሬ ደግሞ እንዴት አድርገን በተለይ በማህበራዊ ገጾቻችን ላይ የሚመጡትን ወይም ማህበራዊ ገጾችን ተጠቅመን እንዴት አድርገን የጥላቻ ንግግርን መቀነስ እንችላለን፣ እንዴት አድርገን ሰላምን መገንባትና የሰላም መገንባት ንግግሮች ማድረግ እንችላለን የሚለውን ነው የምንመለከተው። በጣም ትልቅ ይቅርታ እየጠየቅን ፕሮግራማችን እንግዲህ ባለፉት 2 ሳምንታት እንደነበረው ዛሬም የሚሆነው በእንግሊዝኛ ነው። ስለዚህ ለአማርኛ ተናጋሪ ተመልካቾቻችን ይቅርታ ጠይቃለሁኝ። ስለዚህ ከዚህ በኋላ ያለውን በእንግሊዝኛ እናደርጋለን። በነገራችን ላይ ግን ከዚህ በፊት የነበሩትን 2 ሲምፖዚየም ክፍሎቻችንን የዛሬ ሳምንትና 2 ሳምንት የነበሩትን ቪዲዮዎች መመልከት ትችላላችሁ። ለዛም ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያ ፒዲሲ የሚለውን ዩቲዩብ ቻናል ላይ ሄዳችሁ እሱን ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቪዲዮዎችንም መመልከት ትችላላችሁ። ከዚህ በኋላ የሚወጡትንም ቪዲዮዎች እዛ ላይ ማግኘት ትችላላችሁ። ስለዚህ የኢትዮጵያ PDCI ዩቲዩብ ቻናል ላይ ሄዳችሁ እንድትመለከቱ በድጋሚ ግብዣዬን አቀርባለሁ። ስለዚህ አሁን ወደ እንግሊዝኛችን እንመለስ። This symposium on Ethiopian media for peace is brought to you by Peace and Development Center International, or PDCI, and Ethiopian Media Council, EMC. The virtual event is organized by Flawless Events, and I'm your moderator, Metishwa Yilma. Before we go to today's session, let me introduce you who the organizers are. The first one is the Peace and Development Center International, or PDCI. It's an independent, non-partisan, not-for-profit, and non-governmental organization established in the United States of America by senior international professionals of Ethiopian origin who are committed to promoting peace in Ethiopia. PDCI is committed to promoting and fostering a culture of peace, reconciliation, and non-violence, preventing and resolving conflicts for peaceful coexistence, and advancing socio-economic development to build a just, equitable, and peaceful Ethiopia. PDCI is a neutral arbiter and convener. It doesn't take sides. PDCI partners, collaborates, and supports PDC Ethiopia in furthering peace among the Ethiopian society throughout the world. PDCI cooperates with all peace lovers to promote economic development and abolish poverty, disease, and literacy from Ethiopia. And the second sponsor of the symposium is the Ethiopian Media Council, EMC. It's an independent civil society organization registered under the proclamation that governs CSOs. The council was formed following a general assembly held in January 2016 and currently has around 50 members that include publishers, broadcasters, as well as media associations. AMC aims to promote press freedom and build journalists' capacity. AMC is run by its executive committee chaired by Ato Amara Aragawi, the general manager of the Reporter English and the Reporter Amharic newspapers. And AMC's deputy chairperson is Ma'aza Burru. She is the co-owner of Shaggar FM. At the present time, PDCI is deeply concerned by the outbreak of violence and escalation of conflict in the Tigray region as well as around the country, and the devastating impacts on civil loss of life and the looming humanitarian crisis. PDCI has repeatedly called for and continues its call for an immediate ceasefire and dialogue to resolve differences. So let me just give you a brief objective of this symposium, Ethiopian Media for Peace. It has 4 objectives. The first one is to increase awareness of issues, best practices, and challenges related to hate speech, disinformation, and peace building. The second objective is to empower participants to be agents of change for the disinformation of accurate information and peace building. The third objective is to increase awareness of measures that can be adopted to counteract and mitigate hate speech and disinformation and promote peace building. And the fourth objective is to produce Ethiopian Media Declaration on countering hate speech and disinformation and promoting peace building. So we've been talking about, from the first week, we've been talking a lot about hate speech, disinformation, fake news, misinformation, and peace building. So just for all of us to be in the same on the same page, you can find the definitions on our platform. But just to give you a brief definition, what we mean by hate speech is any kind of communication in speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses pejorative or discriminatory language and with reference to a person or a group on the basis of who they are, in other words, based on their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factors. This is often rooted in and generates intolerance and hatred, and in certain contexts can be demeaning and divisive. Disinformation or fake news is information that is false and deliberately created to harm a person, a social group, organization, or a country, whereas misinformation is information that is false but not created with the intention of causing harm. So you can find previous week's discussions on the platform social. So let me give you a few housekeeping items before I invite the panelists. So when on the website or on the application that you registered, social events, on that platform, you can use the discussion wall to write your comments, to ask questions, to engage in the conversation. I will read some of your comments in between, and I will also forward your questions to our panelists. Whenever you tweet or you post on Facebook, please make sure that you use #media4peace, because we want to expand this conversation outside of this platform, and we want more people to get engaged in our conversation. So make sure that you use #media4peace. So during the first and the second sessions of the symposium, we were laying out foundation on our common understanding of hate speech, disinformation, fake news, and misinformation, and also peace building. The guests we brought on the first and the second week, they were talking about historical and also practical examples from around the world. The first week, it was more on historical events happened 100 years ago in England, and also in the current day of USA, particularly related to the election. And last week, we were also talking about fake news in the case of Ethiopia, and also about hate speech using media in the case of Rwanda, and how that led into conflict in the first and second weeks. That's what we looked at. So our guests today on the third session of the symposium on media, Ethiopian media for peace, we are bringing it down to home, to Ethiopia, because based on all the experiences, global experiences and historical experiences, now we're going to be talking about Ethiopian experiences. And this week, because we're focusing particularly on social media and how we can reduce hate speech and also how we can encourage peace building dialogues, we selected our panelists based on that particular criteria. So now, without further ado, let me introduce you our three panelists. And how it's going to happen is I will introduce them briefly, but then they will give their opening remarks by introducing them in relation to today's topic. And after that, I will give them questions to respond to and to reflect on. That's the first part of the session. And the second half or the second 1 hour, you will be sending us questions, and I will forward it to our panelists and they will answer your questions. We want to keep it like a conversation, like a dialogue. So please make sure that you keep sending those questions so that our panelists can reflect more on it. They have their own personal experiences, reflections, and they will share with us their insights and practical wisdom. So let's invite our panelists. The three panelists are Obang Meto, founder and executive director of the Solidarity Movement for New Ethiopia. Our second panelist is Aitan Brhane, executive director of Ethiopia Peace and Development Center. And our third panelist is Dr. Andrew Decourt, founder of the Never Love movement. And I would like to welcome you all. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking your time to share with us your experiences, insights, and practical wisdom. We really appreciate your concern and your engagement in this timely and critical manner. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me start with Obang Meto. So you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, particularly in relation to reducing hate speech and using social media. But then later on with questions, we'll get more out of you.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me well. And for you, the first part was very good. But when you were bringing all the audience in, I couldn't hear you properly. So could you hear me fine? Everybody hear me good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me. But before I go to that, and really, I would like to pass my heartfelt sympathy to our peoples who are affected as we speak today in our country. There's many people that who have already lost their loved one, and there's people that who are sleeping in, not in their home, and there are people that who don't know where their family members are, and we have some of our citizens who are living in another, almost who are now refugee in the neighboring countries, and then we have the whole society that who are living in fear of anxiety. And so for all of those who are suffering throughout our countries, I would like to really to, pass my sympathy to them, and then to the one that who already, lost their loved one, so those who we lost, may their soul rest in peace. And then, may those people that who are outside become more strong and comforted, saying that we can make it through this, or we can go through this together. So talking about, the before I even, even the one thing why I was saying the hate speech is that, the hatred can take life, but love can breed life. So this is one of the things that usually people tend to see, that it is really through an hatred that you can destroy. Hatred can cause destruction, and love, can build things. So, but where do hatred start from? Before I go to that, as you say that, to start a little bit more about myself, I think that most of Ethiopians are aware about what I do. I didn't become a human rights activist by choice. I was forced to that, about exactly 17 years ago, in a few weeks. In the Gambela regions, the Hanyak ethnic group were targeted based on their ethnicity, where in the town of almost 100,000 people, the Gambela town, only 424 one ethnic groups, they were targeted based on who they are. And then after that, it was well documented. I think most of the people know. And then by then it was really done in the work of the government, and then the national security force and all of this. And then as a result of that, I did get involved in trying to seek justice for those people. At the very beginning, it's a very lonely journey. I was pretty much alone. I don't know really what it is. I was living in Canada as a young man. So, and I took up the plate and really do what I can. But by that time, I had a choice. I had a choice to be a hungry man. I had a choice to be hatred. I had a choice to say that, those guys and those people. But for me, I decided to say that, as the hatred took the people that whom I love, my family and, my ethnic group, whatever that is, my action can also take the life of another person. So I decided to choose the higher road, which is most of the time is very difficult for some people to get that. So at the beginning, we started by meaning that we and the Hanuak and some of the people who are close to the Hanuak ethnic group, we started as a very few at the time. Most of the Ethiopians were not with us. We're trying to reach out, and then, the welcoming was not there. And then, definitely we had a choice, as I say, to resent, to have hatred and respond in a different way. But, we continue. At the beginning, it's not difficult. It's not easy. As I say, even some of my own fellow ethnic groups were really would not agree with my idea. I'm thinking that, what the heck are you doing yesterday when we were killed? The rest of the Ethiopian were not with us. There's no need to work together. But I always try to tell them that justice will never come to our own ethnic group until it comes to the rest of Ethiopia. And I keep hammering that and saying that because at the end of the day, my well-being rests in the hand of the next person to me. My peace rests in the next person to me. So in that, whether I like it or not, my existence is not me alone. My existence depends on my father and mother who brought me. My existence depends on my family who raised me. My existence depends on my neighbors, my friends who some of them don't look like me. We don't share the same things. Just my existence depends on other fellow human beings. So that case, then I have no choice to pick who's my fellow Ethiopian, who's not. I have no choice to pick who would help me or not. I have no choice, to really choose when it comes by being a human being. Then I depend on other people. So from that on, that will continue. Eventually, at the beginning, it was very difficult for my own group. It was very difficult for other Ethiopians to accept it. But as we keep going on, most of the Ethiopians really come abroad. And what I realized is one of the problems of Ethiopia was a systematic problem where everybody's being seen by the lens of ethnicity, not the humanity. In that case, then really some of the people come to realize that what I was saying was correct. Even some of my own group didn't agree in other groups. So people join us, join together, and we create this organization, Solidarity Movement for New Ethiopia. Not a new country, not a new map, not a new flag, but it's a new thinking where we value our fellow human being or a fellow Ethiopian has our own, and also to let them know that peace, you share peace, and peace meaning that peace within yourself is not enough, but peace within your neighbor, peace within your area and people that are around that. From that on, then we've been reaching out is almost now, as I say, about almost 17 years that since I've been doing this. Coming to this, conclusion and but to the point where we are talking about this, the idea or the message I wanted to tell you guys or those who are listening about hate speech. Where did the hate speech start from? You give what you get. So there's people that who really have within themselves something is missing and they don't see the bigger pictures, and they are driven by hatred and not knowing that the end of the result of the hatred is a destruction. And so many people, when it comes to social media, because those people, they cannot do it alone. So social media become a platform where you can be able to share your hatred so that you multiply, because they cannot do it alone. They need someone to do it. And so this is something that has happened, usually when the hate speech is pushed to the edge. Where did they start? It started by demonize those people and dividing them, say them and us. They are not us. You dehumanize them. You give them name. You label them. So then, when you distance yourself from them, they become like a mechanical being. You can destroy them. They are not that. But at the end of the day, if you think that the person you are hitting, is that yourself, if you see the humanity within that person, the destruction will be less, because usually people who go and rape a woman, if they think put themselves in that shoes, that could be my mother, that could be my sister, that could be my daughter, their conscience will not allow it to do it. So when we come to the hate speech in the
Oban,
terms,
we'll come back to the details. We'll come back because some of the things you're touching, and these are the questions that I will be raising later. But thank you so much. I'll come back. You will finish your idea, because I have so many questions lined up for you. But thank you so much. Let me go to Aitan. Aitan, who are you? Why are you here? Let's hear from you, and then we'll move to Andrew, and I will start throwing up my questions.
Thank you, Mati, for inviting me in this forum. And before I introduce myself, as Obang did, I want to also express my sympathy to the people of Ethiopia, and for those who actually troubled by the current situation here. My heart and prayer for the well-being of Ethiopia is to be. My name is Aitan, as you said it. I'm the executive director of the Peace and Development Center, which was established 13 years ago and working in peace building and conflict resolution in Ethiopia and the Horn. I joined this organization 7-8 years ago, and I run different programs, which is related to peace building, conflict resolution, and also conflict transformation. Our focus is like bringing peace, sustainable peace for Ethiopia, so that our focus to be to the development and to the well-being of the country. That's also my passionate. I especially work with young people in Ethiopia, with the university students, which most of the conflicts usually are started and easily expanded to the whole country. So especially with the new dynamics of the emergence of the social media and the accessibility of information easily from your hands, the use of Ethiopia are engaging in hate speech, misinformation, and disinformation due to lack of right, intervention to inform them the right information, which is happening all over the country and in the world. So my organization and me are focusing on building right information and also reducing the disinformation and hate speech, and also engaging in community peace building activities. And I'm leading this organization, and I have been there for the last 7 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aitan. Really appreciate the initiative, this initiative taken by PDCI and also the Ethiopian Media Council, because the problem on the ground. I think it's very critical that you brought this together. So thank you. Now to you, Andrew. Who are you? Why did we invite you?
Good question. Meti, thanks for your hospitality. Obang, Aitan, it's so good to see you, brothers. I want to join my voice in expressing my sympathy and prayer for people who are suffering in Ethiopia today. I'm grateful to be part of this conversation. I love Ethiopia. I love Ethiopians. I believe that this country is rich and full of potential. I'm married to an Ethiopian woman. I have almost 17 years of relationship with Ethiopia. And I fundamentally believe that every person is my neighbor with precious value. The person I'm most tempted to hate is still my precious neighbor. So I'm committed to being patient and listening, fierce in kindness, and working for a just society for the common good. I did a PhD in ethics from the University of Chicago, and have taught ethics and Ethiopian studies at universities in the United States, Germany, and Ethiopia. And a year ago, my partner, Dr. Tekle Nega, and I started the Neighbor Love movement in Ethiopia. NLM exists to inspire Ethiopian young people to see and treat others as precious neighbors across every boundary and identity. We believe that the root problem challenging our beloved Ethiopia today is othering, and we believe that seeing and treating others as neighbors can help heal this othering. Neighbor love is rooted in the religious and democratic traditions with which about 99% of Ethiopians already agree with. So we promote a short covenant that says, I covenant to see and treat other people as my neighbors. And this is attached to 7 practices that we challenge Ethiopian young people to practice in their body, their eyes, how they see others, their ears, how they listen to others, their mouths, how they speak with others, their hands, how they use power, their feet, who they choose to walk with in life, their heart, feeling the other person's joy and pain, and their mind, choosing to live an integrated life with what they believe and what they value. So far, Meti, we have been really encouraged by the growth of our social media campaign. We've reached about 15 million Ethiopians. We've generated about 1 million engagements, about 40,000 followers on social media, and our campaign really exists to inspire love, justice, and flourishing for neighbors across boundaries as an alternative to the hate speech and the different disinformation that we're discussing today. We're currently producing video content for all 45 of Ethiopia's universities on what it means to love your neighbor and overcome hate speech and disinformation in social media. And we're really excited to make this content available to our university students. On my personal page, I'm always writing and talking about issues related to human value, peacemaking in Ethiopia. And I'd like to start this conversation by saying that I believe that each and every Ethiopian person has precious value, and I refuse to hate, and I welcome dialogue with anyone who wants to grow together. I see you as my neighbor, and I believe this vision can lead us to a shared future. Well, thanks for welcoming me, Mati.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And later on, especially towards the end of my questions, what shall we do individually and collectively is one of the things we'll be talking about. And I'm sure all of your experiences, all the 3 of you, from your personal experience, I'm sure we're going to learn a lot. Honored to be moderating this panel because I've been following some of your works and particularly learning from your journeys will bring us so much value. So thank you once again. Let me start with the first question. So we all know that media has been a critical element or a critical tool to spreading hate speech, disinformation, and misinformation. But lately, the last decade or so, social media has been added to this component. So, what do you think? What do you think did, or what new elements did social media add in terms of spreading hate speech and disinformation? So, let's talk about the role of social media first. So on now let's go backwards. Let me start with Andrew.
Great, thank you, Mati. In Ethiopia today, power is mobilized around identity, and identity often revolves around ethnicity, religion, and politics. And this identity, as Obang said, is increasingly constructed through othering. We are not them, they're unrelated to us, or they're less than us. And this means that if leaders want power, they need to promote increasingly ethnocentric, exclusive, aggressive messages. And on social media, what we see is that identity-defined personalities are increasingly dominating their audiences' opinions and values with their social media posts. And if you follow that person, you often believe what they post and automatically reshare it, maybe without even reading it. And resharing it isn't primarily a truth claim or about spreading accurate information. It's about loyalty and declaring your identity. I'm with him, we're us. And thus these posts get a massive audience in a matter of seconds. I've had some very famous Ethiopians share my Facebook posts, and right away my post is shared thousands of times, and I get thousands of friend requests. But again, what this means is that hateful messages and misinformation or disinformation can spread extremely fast through networks, which simultaneously supercharges a sense of power for some, fear for others, and conflict between us. But I don't want to blame everything on so-called elites. Ordinary people also have power. And as Howard Zinn said in A People's History, it's these ordinary people who he called the guardians of society who have profound influence in our state of society. And we definitely see ordinary individuals who are freely posting hateful or false content, which again is often an act of declaring one's identity and one's loyalty to a group. And more frequently, I see one-sided identity-based posts. So if you're from this group, you're going to be posting, liking, and sharing this article or this video or this image. And if you're from that group, you're going to be posting that image, article, video, etc. The trends can be extremely predictable. So the result is a kind of daily escalation of polarization, which is just a fancy word that means us versus them. Either you're for us or you're against us with no middle ground. I go on Facebook, I scroll for several minutes, and I'm getting hit after hit of brain chemicals that's reinforcing this sense of hardened identity and conflict with others over their identity. And so today we often see that people express disagreement through expressing hatred. Rather than saying, hey, Meti, I disagree with you, I say, I hate you, or I think that you're evil, or you should be driven away. So we're seeing this kind of supercharging and acceleration of hate and disinformation through how identity is constructed and presented on social media platforms.
Wow, thank you, Andrew. Yes, you're right. The magnitude influence is as great as it is, but it can be scary as well, because it gives us a sense of power, but at the same time, we don't look at the sense of responsibility it brings with us. So yeah, that's a very good point. Aitan, now it's you. So what new elements or effects did social media add to spread hate speech and disinformation? And I'm sure you noticed that with the work of PDC. So please share with us that.
Thank you very much. I think in order to really address the role of the social media, it's important to compare with the traditional media, which we had before the social media emerged. If you see the traditional media, there are editorials which can actually check every line for the purpose of checking probably misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. And in order to access this traditional media, you have to wait time. Like, for example, news are coming every other hour, or the newspaper are published every week, or you have to wait another day to read a newspaper. And also there are clear accountability with the traditional media, because they have addresses and directors, responsible people who are actually writing all these issues in the traditional media. But when we come to the social media, it's clearly that everybody is an owner. Like everybody who has a phone or a laptop or a computer can have an account in a social media and can disseminate whatever information they want. And it's very difficult to control compared to the traditional medias. And it's very, very quick. Like in every second, things can be changed. Like everybody can come and post whatever they want in the social media, and information, misinformation, disinformation, whatever, can be easily, transmitted in all the social medias in a very, very fast manner, very difficult to control, like the traditional medias. And sometimes because of the fake accounts, it's very difficult to to bring people to the accountability, and you can find even from which area in the specific address these informations are actually flowing. So compared to the traditional media, the role of social media is completely changed, and whoever wants to transmit misinformation, disinformation, hate speech can do it, even without showing his identity or her identity in the media platform. So I think we are not prepared still to to counter back the role of social media, especially in disseminating this hate information, misinformation, and hate speech. So that's what we are facing in our challenges, even in our implementations of the programs. After we move in a very constructive direction, some misinformation or hate speech can actually take us back down from building peace and transforming conflict. So the role is completely different from that of the traditional media, and it's really challenging our peace building work in our organization also.
Yeah, thank you, Aitan. Yes, accountability and traceability. These are the two most challenging elements of the social media. And I feel, especially with works like PDC, I can imagine how difficult it is. It's like you go 2 steps forward and then maybe sometimes 3 steps backward. So
Yeah.
that I can feel how frustrating that can be.
Mm.
Obang, I'm with you now. So, what do you think, especially you have been engaged in this kind of work, justice, social welfare? You've been fighting for others, particularly who do not have voices, human rights issues, and you've been within the traditional media when you started. And now social media is here, and you use that. But what new elements did you notice the social media has brought into this picture?
Yeah, thank you. What I realize, is I think that the two brothers before me put it very well, is that what elements I seen as a different is the speed. The speed of the social media is something that even within a minute, when we want to correct it, with even less than a minute, it's already reached out to somebody. And that speed is really, I think, is the most challenging that we are dealing with now. Someone can say something completely false, and then someone will take it as completely truth. By the time they're wanting, and they will act on it. And then by the time they realize it was false, it's too late. And that's one thing that I'm seeing, that it becomes very difficult and make the work of peace so difficult. The peace is meaning that, taking time to listen. But these social media make it that there's no time to listen. The work of peace requires patience, and the social media take away the patience from us. The social media almost that make it to be so emotional, without even, thinking about it. Just you see something, even sometimes some of the picture you see that's so graphic, and will say that, this happened to you. And then your emotion, your conscience really block you, and then you see that. And sometimes, you find it later on, this is taking place in totally different countries, not the country you are in. And then you already react. So the speed is really, I think, what I see to be the biggest problem. So this speed is, is anti-patient, anti-reconciliation, anti-peace, anti-harmony. So we come to the point now where it's becoming very difficult. And then we are not talking about only a place like Ethiopia. If you look at it in the last election of America, people question that, how, the Russia used it to the best to manipulate, the election. And even until today, we realize that. So you can see how this is not only a simple thing. This is an issue of national security issues, about the survival, about committing atrocity, committing something that doesn't exist. Because it makes people to react, not to think, because you don't want to make a mistake. But the speed makes you to make a mistake. And by the time you say that, oops, someone already died, property already been destroyed, someone you love is hurt, already hurt, that there's no time to really, and that what it is really what the worst part of it. And this is not, it is in the hand of everybody. And then sometimes the fact checking, you don't have time to check, if this is true. Even sometimes you don't even time to call and say that, hey, is this true? By the time you call that person already assume it's true or forward it. So you click. Even sometimes that you post a post, and within 30 seconds, you think that nobody's seen it. Couple have people already seen it. So it becomes very difficult, especially for people who are fighting in a struggle of peace and reconciliation and unity and harmony. It makes it very difficult for us. So how do we deal with it? It is something that not only an Ethiopian thing, or it is a humanity thing. The more technologies, and I say that the biggest threat to human civilization is our technology. The technologies is actually a threat to our existence. A little click of a button of a nuclear can blow up the whole country and kill millions of people. A little tiny thing can also blow up the community to hate each other. So I see that one thing I seem to be, that is the biggest problem. But again, as the brother was saying earlier, that accountability is not there. No one really seems to, because you are unaccountable. It's your phone. It is mine. You speak of that. Lack of accountability, transparency is another thing that you can say it and you get away with it. There's no, even when there's a country where we pass a law, hate speech, but it's not effective because someone is in their remote area on their phone. How can a police go there and tell them you did this? So I think this is the challenge of the whole world, not only us.
Yes, thank you, Obang. Clearly, speech. Sometimes it even, surprises me. You say something and you realize, oh, this must be a mistake. You take it off and you just find somebody else, screenshot it, and say, you say this. We've seen people, even after they make mistakes, they realized and they wanted to revert it, but others use it to fuel some more hate and some more disinformation by saying, oh, and it's the speed is just, it's not human. So I can understand. Now, of course, we love stories because we learn a lot from stories, and I know all of you have some stories to share, because I believe that we get practical wisdom lessons from your experiences. So how do you personally deal with hate speech and disinformation directed at you or about you, about your work? Yes, we can talk about general things, but if you're comfortable, because we also understand uh, your vulnerability, or what this can bring to you personally. So if you're comfortable, please do share personal experiences. But how do you personally deal with hate speech and disinformation? Because you're on spotlight. Aitan, your institution is on spotlight, but Obang and Andrew, you personally are on spotlight. So things are being said about you and the works that you have done. So from organizational, collective, and individual experiences, I would love to hear your stories. So let's start with Aitan. Yeah. So share with us.
One of my job is to train people in peace building and conflict resolution aspects. So many times I am in a training room and train people on basics of conflicts and making a sense of conflict transformation, peace building, multiculturalism, and the like. So usually when I get to the training room, the first impression that I'll get from the participants is they try to check who I am. Like as Andrew was rightly saying, the power mobilization of this country is basically identity. So people usually are curious who this guy is coming here and giving us to live together, to love each other, to deal with conflicts and like that. So one of the trainees in one incident asked me that from which background, ethnic background I came from, and I told him that I'm mixed. So he said that no, you have to pick one, because we don't want to be trained by this ethnic group, because we belong to this ethnic group and we are, enemies to each other, and that's a kind of hate approach and hate speech I usually face in training groups. It's not new, and most of them probably may not say clearly what they are inside, but they can show you in a different way that seeing your name and other identities you have, they probably categorize you, put you in one basket, and put you as an enemy or as an ally. So this is the challenge which which I usually face in the training rooms. And one of my trainees asked me if I belong to this group. I couldn't train him, and he has to leave the room. And so what I did was, okay, you can leave the room, but at least wait until until the coffee break. And he agreed with that. And in the coffee break, I just tried to talk to him in separate, individually, and told him that you can say whatever you want in the room if I'm not really addressing your issues, or if I'm speaking anything against your identity, your ideology, whatever, and we can fight in ideas. And at least if I can't shape you or change you, at least I can put some question mark in your brain that you will go with it and think about it, and in the process you can change yourself. This kinds of incidents usually happens in our intervention of work, and I understand that it is because we are mobilized in identity base. Power is shaped in identity bases, and identity is becoming very sensitive in Ethiopian context. That's the story I can share.
Thank you, Aitan. That's very profound, and I understand, especially when you are a mixed person and growing up in cities. Um, you know, I personally do not understand that side, but I am willing to listen. So those are the kind of things that we need to bring on social media. Great. So yes, Obang, let's come to you. Personal experience, if you don't mind, but yeah, let's hear what how you personally deal with hate speech and disinformation.
Thank you. I think that so sometimes people say that to do this kind of job, we have to have a thick skin, as they say that. Without having a thick skin, you cannot do it. You have to believe in yourself. That in a meaning that you are created equal like everybody else. You are not better than others. Other people are not better than you. So you have to have that kind. Otherwise, it's very difficult to survive to do this, especially within Ethiopia. Being someone like me coming from ethnic group, being a darker person is not easy, especially within Ethiopia. And we have these where sometimes people, the discrimination is obvious, is there. And when you speak these kind of things, people have a choice for you where to put you. When you do it the way, if you didn't go to their side, you are the enemy. If you go to that side, you didn't, you are not. As we were talking that, I think one of the biggest problems of Ethiopia today is the ethnic federalism, the ethnic system politic. It is what is eating us from within. Even Ethiopians who lived their life 200 years ago, 300 years ago, if they come today, they will not believe that this is the Ethiopia that they were living in. Because our existence has become the ethnicity more than anything else. So everything we do is we seen by that. And so for me, as someone like me coming to speak about we are one, there are people who resist and say that you are not one. We don't have anything in common. Our ethnicity is first. And one of the things that we do in our work, campaign we did was, say that I'm human, human first, because people go to the point of saying that, I am this first, I am Oromo first, I'm Tigray first, I'm Amara first. And I told them that, look, before that, you are a human being first. There's many people who come to resist that. And the way they used it most of the time, it's to demonize me as a person, to get to the point of wanting to demonize me in a way that you are not a human yet, or someone created you as a human, and also in a way that this is a lack of critical thinking, where people have these even, the same thing like the colonizer a long time ago. They think that your skin color will make you less human. We are people who still have that today, thinking that your darker can make you a monkey, an animal, and all of this. So the demonization is one thing that they do. But again, for me, I'm beyond than that. That God has created me like every other human beings. So I see that I made a decision a long time ago that I made a hold to help improve the life of Ethiopian and the life of any African, or the life of a human being. Within that is case is that I already paid the price. I already, whatever it come, I already pay the price, whatever that it would be, no matter it's abuse or curse and this, I am ready for it, because I say that, the life that we have in Ethiopia is not worth living the way it is. And for that reason, then, my life is not worth living in this kind of environment. I have to work very hard that the next generation will have a better life than I am, or will not be discriminated based on their skin color or their ethnicity or whatever that may be, And so in that case, I already make the decision, no matter whatever they do, which is, from cursing to the point of saying that we are going to kill you. There's a death threat that we will come and eliminate you wherever we find you. We'll do this. But for me, that did not deter me, because I realized that I have a much more greater job. It is not about me. I'm just a one person, but there are other people who will come before me. The life is, we are the result. We live in a society where the people before us, they have done what we are doing today. Ethiopia would be in a different place. So it's in our hand. What kind of Ethiopia do we want the next generation? An Ethiopia where we put our ethnicity first, an Ethiopia where we get a job because our ethnic group, in Ethiopia there where we favor someone because of their own ethnic group. So no. And so I find that's very difficult. As I was saying, that there were some, people who used to, call and left the phone. My friend and family member will hear that and they're crying. I told them that's okay. That is just, let it go. I don't know how they, it hurt them that much. But for me, as I say that, I already gave a hope to myself. I am into this to help make the life of other people better in whatever that may be. So it's not easy, as I say, that you have to be someone. So when I go on, left Ethiopia as a young, live in the West, and going back to Ethiopia last year, we went almost more than 16 universities speaking the Ethiopian. What I was telling them all the way the same thing, that we are greater than our ethnic groups. And when someone curses you, put you down, and call you that you are not unworthy, don't forget that. God who created you are worthy. No one should label you to put you down that way. Don't forget that. The mom and dad who brought you to this world, you are worthy. Just don't let someone else push you to that. So when it comes to this hate speech, it is how you take it. And if you don't have that, foundation, you can be crushed. A wood can destroy a human beings than even a bullet. And the wood can also then heal a human being. So it is a depend of how you take that wood and how you use. There's many people to make it sure that sometimes people who will call and say that I hate you and I hate you, and I respond back to them. I love you, I love you. I don't want you love. I say whether you like it, you are my fellow Ethiopian brothers. I love you, man. I cannot say that I hate you, because, and then eventually they will say, go to hell. And I say, okay, I'm still your brother. I'm not going to go to hell. So it's an easy thing to do, but you have to have a stronger, thick skin to yourself and believe that, we are all created equals, and then we have a purpose in this world to help and make the life of other people better than when we found it.
Thank you. Thank you, Oman. Yes, especially social media can be a very mean place that crushes you if you don't have the thick skin. Andy, that's your turn. Your take on
Yeah,
this.
thank you, Meti. You know, a while back, a really good friend of mine told me, Andrew, if you want to expand the neighbor love movement in Ethiopia, you need to go to everyone. You can't go to people who already agree with you, who already think like you, who are already trying to achieve what you believe is valuable for human flourishing. And I took his advice very seriously, and I started building relationship across boundaries in Ethiopia with some of the most controversial figures, with some of the most famous and influential figures. And what happened was in April and May, I got over 60 death threats on social media. Someone started posting a fake news story that I was receiving millions of dollars to personally destroy Ethiopia. A 20-minute documentary was made about me and posted on YouTube that got over 50,000 views. People on that YouTube video were saying that they were going to butcher every part of my body, throw me off a bridge, run me over with a car. People were asking where I lived. It was really, really quite intense, and I was seeing how lies and hatred can spread quite powerfully when you cross these identity lines and try to build bridges between people. So how have I responded? I love Michelle Obama's motto, when they go low, we go high. And I want to mention 7 ways that I try to practice this on my social media platform. The first is create a profile that is intentionally diverse and that's bigger than any identity box. I try to put quotes from the Bible, from the Quran, from Friedrich Nietzsche. I post Christian meditations. I post open-ended ethical reflections. I post pictures with Obang and Jawar Muhammad and Gideon Timotheos and Eleni Gebremedin and with the street kids in my neighborhood. I refuse to create an identity box with my platform. My platform is meant to be a space for everyone. The second is express gratitude for comments. You know, even when people start an aggressive tone, I want to create an atmosphere of gratitude and welcome in the discussions that I'm engaging. The third is I try to acknowledge the normalcy of disagreement. It's normal for us to disagree. So I refuse to get triggered, and I invite other people to resist getting triggered. Disagreement is not a problem. We can learn through our disagreement. So let's acknowledge that that's normal. The fourth is that I try to practice admitting my blind spots and correcting my errors when I need to. I want to model that I can get things wrong and that I genuinely want to learn from others. So when they post a critical comment from me, I really try to stop and think, say, okay, how is this person seeing it? What are they seeing that I'm not seeing? How can I learn from it? And how can I acknowledge that in a public way that shows that I'm open to learning? The fifth is to challenge ignorance and aggression with kindness and open-ended questions. I refuse to respond to insults with insults. When people curse, I bless. Like Oban said, when someone says, I hate you, I'm going to say, I love you. When someone says, go to hell, I'm going to say, I want to meet you in heaven. When someone says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to say, I want you and your family to flourish and to experience safety and health and well-being. The sixth thing that I'll mention is that when it's necessary, you got to block, report, and delete comments. I refuse for my platform to become an open house for the kind of hatred that we're discussing. And so people know, and I repeatedly say that if you're going to spread lies and hate on my platform, that it's going to be reported and it's going to be deleted. And in all of this, Meti, what I would say is that people need examples of what dialogue looks like. One of the reasons why dialogue is failing right now is that we're not super familiar with what it looks like and what it sounds like and what it feels like. And I think that our social media platforms can become spaces where people who are watching in the shadows can say, ah, that's what it looks like. Patience is possible. Gratitude is possible. Kindness is possible. Learning is possible. Peaceful disagreement is possible. So it gets intense, it gets painful, but I think that social media can also be a really powerful platform for promoting truth and love across boundaries.
Well, actually, partly you answered my next question, Andrew. That's very powerful, and thank you for sharing your personal experience, and also thank you for sharing how you fight hate speech and disinformation. So let me go back to Aitan on how do you do it on organizational group levels, particularly because you do a lot of work on ground. As opposed to social media. So how do you fight that? How do you go against that? And then Obang, I'll come to you later.
As we were explaining previously, because this is a new phenomenon, the social media, and it's very fast, and the hate speech spreads in a very quick way. It's sometimes holds us back, but we still can't stop working in our peace building and conflict resolution interventions. One of the things that we do usually is we went to show to people, especially our beneficiaries and those who are engaged in our peace building programs, we are neutral. We don't endorse any political ideology. We don't endorse any religious ideology, or we don't oppose. And same as political ideologies, we don't oppose or endorse any political ideology. We don't endorse individuals, and also we don't oppose individuals also. So we try to show to people that we are extremely neutral. We just need people to develop their conflictual relationship to a peaceful relationship. That's one thing we continuously try to show to people. That's why we survived for long years as an organization. Our neutrality brings us here. That's and also the way we try to show it. The second is we show dignity to people, like you respect people from the bottom of your heart, so that sometimes they push you in their hate speech, but you respond in a nice way. So they try again, and you respond in a nice way again. So people start now reduce their hate speech and come to your way. That's because we are peace builders. We have to have, as Obang said, a very thick skin. The other one is we try to be very empathic. Like when hate speech comes to you, you have to try to see that why those individuals, those groups speak like that. You try to put yourself in the feet of them and try to understand why they're doing this. There are three basic important issues in Ethiopia that always triggers hate speech. One is the politics. Politics, when you engage in politics, the hate speech always hit on, because the end target of a politics is power. In whatever way power comes, you push it. So it's not like you don't expect politicians to be ethical, but they have to be. And they revolve around hate speech as far as they get power in that way. The second factor that is triggering hate speech in this country is our history. Like we don't, have consensus on our history. Like you hear different stories, false narratives and whatever, and like developed as history. But we always try to, focus on the right history, which actually makes people to be together, to transform their confrontational relationship into peaceful relationship. The third factor which triggers hate speech in this country is the issue of ethnicity. Basically power is mobilized based on ethnicity in this country. Ethnic identity is associated with land ownership in this country. So most of the time, this land belongs to this ethnic identity is triggering a lot of frictions and hate speech. So as far as you can, you shouldn't stop in any side and show always your neutrality, your impartiality from any ideology, whether political, religious, or whatever. So you can reduce the hate speech in that way. But still, there are a lot of things that we have to do in order to make people to think critically, rationally and respond for conversations which they have with you. But that's the way we try to address hate speech coming to our daily routines in our work.
Thank you, Aitan. Thank you so much. Critical key points that you mentioned there. So, Obang, I'm back at you now. So, how do you deal with hate speech, particularly on a personal level and on the movements that you're leading?
So thank you. It's not easy, as I was saying that, but the way we wanted to do it is more. I think Andrew said it earlier that you really what we decided to do was to reach out to the people, even the one that were spreading the hate speech. If we can get to them, to humanize them, because that's the only way that you really can be able to convince them in a way that unless we talk, we have these things in our organization. It's a two base, two principle base. One other thing we have is humanity before ethnicity or any other difference. Second is no one is free until we are all free. In order to accomplish this, we thought that we need to talk to each other, not about each other's. It's only through talking to each other that we can know who that person is. By talking to each other, we can be able to convince them. Without talking to them, definitely, whether you call it hate speech, whether you call it, love, whether you call it friend, it's communication is a key. One of the things that would make a human being different than any other is the communication and emotion. So by talking to someone, you can be able to express. And so listening as well. So one thing we find that is a problem in our country, we don't talk to each other. We talk about each other's. And when we talk about each other, because those guys are not there, we demonize them. Those guys are these, they are these, they are that. We give the worst name. But if you talk to them, the person can defend and say, no, that's not who we are. So one of the things that we try to do even when we went to the university, traveling and talking to some of these students, was that let's talk to each other. One of the biggest problems in our country is because of ethnicity politics. The ethnicity politics by nature, it makes us not to be of one of it. It makes us to be separate. That is those guys and us in a way. That is really so deep and went to the schools. So one thing that we decided to do was that really try to break that barrier by humanize those guys. Let's talk to those guys. Let's see what are they thinking. What are their feeling, how they are. At the end of the day, also to let them realize that that the life is too short. We are into this world for a short period of time. And whatever we are fighting for, whether we call it ethnicity, entitlement, power, and money, when we die, this thing is gone within a minute. So we try to really reach out to humanize them and letting them know, put yourself in the shoes of other peoples. Those people, they are just like you. And especially whether in Ethiopia, whether we like it or not, what makes us to be one in this country, it's not our skin color. We don't have the same skin color. It's not our language. It's not our religion. It's not our ethnicity. What makes us the land that we all call Ethiopia? And, and we are all one of the, whether we like it or not, we are family. So we try to get that, humanize them, telling them, to think beyond the little box. Let them come out of the box. So it's not easy. Some people don't get it right away because some people are really, they have drunk it. They drink the ethnicity politic or hatred and these things, and then they become who they are. They cannot see themselves living without that. But the only way to take that is you have to intoxicate them. And by using a language of love, respect, dignity, caring, you are me. Without me, and that's one thing I try to do when we will go and talk to the people. They're saying that, what, by being a human being, you already have a responsibility. Humanity, being a human being is a big responsibility because that's why we are different than animal. An animal can be born within a minute, can walk. A human being can be born, will never survive without another human being. From the minute we are born to survive, we need other human beings. So whether we like it or not, that human being doesn't have to be our brother and sister, doesn't have to be our mother, doesn't have to be our ethnic groups, doesn't have to be darker like me or like you or like that. It doesn't have to be the same color or the same religion, as long as that all it needs is a human being. So we try to reach out to these, how to humanize them and talk to them and label them. You have a responsibility beyond your ethnicity. You have a responsibility to diffuse this hatred. You have responsibility to care for others. You have responsibility to make this country a better place. And above all, to remind them that they cannot be free until the other people are free. To remind them that justice they're looking for will not come until they come to the rest of the country. So it's not easy, but I find that it is lack of talking to each other is one of the biggest problems. And when this hatred is, you respond with hatred. Just pretty much you are pouring gasoline in it. But if you humanize them, even if they talk to you in just a horrible way, they degrade you, they dehumanize you, you take time, they will think twice. And then they will come to the point that, okay, maybe that's it. So we find that it's not easy, but it's also that it's doable by the way of really communicating to one another, not about one another.
Thank you, Obang. So let me stay with you right now. And since you're discussing it, how do we break the cycle? How do we heal from this? Because hate speech and disinformation damages us, hurts us individually and collectively. So how do you feel like we can? How do you feel, or what are your ways of healing? How do you break the cycle? How shall we end it here with us? So what shall we do?
What we have to do is that you look into this, that we are a society, human being, we are a social animal, that's they say that. There are people that we listen to. There are those, who are being viewed as leaders, as a community leader, a tribal leader, a religious leader, political leaders. So sometimes those leaders, because if you look into it, that you have the question you are asking now, by the way, and I'm honest that in this, I heard this by talking to one of the things that, about 200 years ago in Ethiopia, this kind of question that you're talking about may never been asked. Ethiopia are intermarriage. We live together for so many years. We are intermarried with one another. Even some of our grandfathers, they don't even know who they're married to, because ethnicity was not highlighted as the biggest issues. I remember a professor who said that they came in 1962, said 52 to Pennsylvania and went to university. And when he was there were an African gathering. And then they went there, and it was organized by a Nigerian. And so when they were there, the Nigerian was saying, oh, what tribe are you? And the Ethiopian, they look at each other. And, no, really, that's not a big deal to us. And this was in 1952. So how do we do this and change this? Those who are figures have to come out. We have to acknowledge there's a problem in our country. Most of us are pretending that we don't acknowledge that. And second, also that the constitution of the countries promote this. The constitution say that we, the nation, nationality, and people group. In Ethiopia, we have three personality, almost identity. We, the people, nation, nationality, people. There's a group who are nation, there's people who are nationality, there's a people group. This was intentionally, it's one thing that it get into heart in the mind of these young people who see themselves that I am my ethnicity. And so if you look in the Western, we have, like, for example, I, born in Gambela, grown up in Gambela. I came when I was young and lived in Canada, and I was living in Saskatchewan, west part of Canada. And where I was there at that time, there's not many Black people at all. There's not a single day that I was afraid that someone will come and harm me. But in Ethiopia today, there are people who are afraid, to live in that particular area because they think that they will be targeted based on ethnicity. So the law, the rule of law, or the constitution of the country also that justified this. So how do we change this? We have to acknowledge there's a problem. And this problem cannot be done by fake, pretending to think that we are okay. We are not okay. We have to acknowledge there's a problem deep within us, eating us alive. And this is, the ethnic system, and also that these false history, this idea of competition and domination, or wanting to say that my first, me first. So we have to have what is our common agenda, our common vision. Is that, to me right now, is that we don't even agree on Ethiopian flag, we don't even agree on our street, we don't even agree on many things, but we can agree on our humanity. So how do we break these things? We have to reach out to those who are figures, religious leaders, teachers, and even the education system have to teach the kids. When you go to the first class in the classroom, tell your kid that the next kid sitting to you is your brother and your sister. Is an Ethiopian, is an African, is a Black person, is a human being, is your brother and sister. We are a brother and sister keepers. We don't have that. The school system have to promote that. The religious leader have to talk of that. A politician have to, do that. All of us, we have to encourage and say that we are more than our ethnicity. And then the hatred is the one thing that can destroy us. We have to teach our children. Hate is a weapon that can destroy you. So let's stop this. So the way to do it is, I think, that our politician, our religious leader, or those who we consider as the figures, they have to come to realize that we have a problem, and they have to talk about that and reaching down to the ground, to the local people.
Very powerful. Thank you, Obang. Yes, we need to reframe our agenda. Aitan, I'm back at you now. So how do we break the cycle, and how can we heal collectively and individually?
Thank you very much. I think there must be a very substantial engagement even at the government level, and like for civil societies like us to engage in. The first one we usually recommend to government and the Ministry of Education always is incorporation of the peace education in our education system. Like our kids has to learn how to speak peaceful words, how they can engage with their classmates, neighbors, and others in a very peaceful manner. So the peace education starting from the kindergarten, in the primary school, secondary school, and even at the university level is very important. We have been recommending this for long, and still there are some changes at the Ministry of Peace level, like incorporating of moral and ethical education in it. But the peace education is a very completely different animal than those that of the moral and ethical education. The other is the start of the laws and the proclamations now the government is introducing, like the hate speech laws, whatever. We have to be very careful, as Elias was saying last week, in just checking the freedom of the medias. But this law has to be really, enacted, and our justice system has to act for those who are preaching this hate speech in their medias. The other thing that we have to do, and still I'm not hearing from anybody from the government and also from the civil society, is sanctioning of those hate words, which are promoting hate in our community. They have to be sanctioned. They have to put in museum and forbid to use them. Like we have a lot of words which our politicians, even government people are using in their speech, and it has to be stopped. It has to be sanctioned, and it has to be actually put in museum from using it. But most importantly, enhancing the quality of education in this country is very important. Our education the quality of our education is very low. Our students, the youth, are not engaged in critical thinking, rather more, in emotional engagements. And the inclusion of the ethical and moral education is very important, but still, it has to go down from the primary level also. So it is through education we can change people. If education is not functioning, all systems will not be functioning. And it has to be incorporated in that in order to actually tackle these kinds of challenges currently we are facing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Aitan. So, Andrew, I'm with you. How can we break the cycle, and how can we heal individually and collectively?
It's a really big question, Metzi, and I think it requires a deep sense of humility and a willingness to stop and reflect in all of us. But I would say the heart of healing is realizing that the other is not the problem. You are not the problem. How we see and treat each other is the problem. So the solution isn't to get rid of each other. The solution is to get rid of the perspectives and practices that have wounded us with hate and lies. And those perspectives and practices might be in me too. they might be in the group that I identify with too. So the other isn't the problem. My othering eyes, my arrogant mouth, my hurtful hands, that's where the problem is. And I think the healing begins with removing these dehumanizing words from my mouth, these enemy images from my eyes, these blocks in my ears that prevent me from really listening, this hardness in my heart that prevents me from feeling the other person's pain and suffering. And I just mentioned a few ways to make this practical. You know, I mentioned that we have this neighbor love covenant that we promote in Balanjaraye. And we say that neighbor love begins in our bodies. You don't need a special amount of money or technology or internet to practice neighbor love. It can begin in your body, and your body can become an instrument of healing in relationship with others. And I just encourage people who are listening to think, how can I begin to see the other person as someone with precious value, rather than trying to put them into these identity boxes that Aitan was mentioning earlier? How can I begin to remove hateful words from my mouth and speak these words of kindness, of care, of dignity that Obang mentioned? How can I use my ears as an instrument of listening and learning, and refuse to close them off from the other person that I say, oh, they're not like me, I have nothing to learn from them? How can I literally move my feet closer to other people who are different than me and say, I'm going to walk with you through life, and I'm going to learn with you about your experience and perspective? The same with my heart. I'm going to open myself to your joy and celebrate your victory, and I'm going to grieve over your suffering. This is the spirit of the common good. So what I'm saying, Meti, is I think that healing really begins in our own relationship with our body, and the way that we inhabit our body in relationship with other people as an instrument of love. And again, this doesn't take a PhD, this doesn't take a million birr, this doesn't take some kind of revolutionary social ideology. It becomes a way of how I'm human in relationship to others. And just the last thing that I'd mention is, I think that parents are the most powerful leaders in Ethiopia today. Moms and dads. And how they're raising their children to see and treat others is literally the soil of the future. So imagine if we had homes where every mom and dad is teaching a covenant to their children that says, hey, we're going to see and treat that person as our neighbor. We're going to speak words of dignity. We're going to be patient listeners. We're going to move our feet to get closer to those people. Like Obang said, we're going to talk to people, not about them. Imagine homes where children are growing up and feel like this is normal. The other thing that I'd mention is we need mentors. We need people who are willingly spending time with young people, developing relationships of trust, relationships of encouragement, relationships of empowerment. And this means that we need to move away from hierarchical relationships where vulnerability is discouraged, and where sharing one's experience and resources is discouraged. And the third thing that I'd mention is we need more moral movements like the Peace and Development Center, like the Solidarity Movement, like the Neighbor Love Movement, that's going to our universities, that's going to our churches and mosques and saying, look, we have shared values and practices that can increase the common good in our shared flourishing. Imagine, Meti, imagine how many churches there are in Ethiopia, how many mosques there are in Ethiopia. These churches and mosques have traditions of neighbor love. Imagine if every church and mosque in Ethiopia could become a generator of human dignity, of listening, of reconciliation, of confessing sin and offering forgiveness. We would have an incredible network of healing. So this needs to be mobilized by more movements that are emphasizing our shared values and the centrality of human dignity.
Thank you. Wonderful points. Yes, parenting particularly. That's something we need to get back to, I guess, and we need to have another session for that. So we've been collecting questions from our participants, both on the platform social, and also on YouTube people were asking questions. So I will direct to specific panelists. So Aidan from Labawi has asked, how can the youth promote for Ethiopian, particularly when it comes to media, peaceful media association, but how can the Ethiopian youth be involved to promote peace? Who would like to take this question? Speaking of the Ethiopian youth promoting, promoting peace. So because I know that you're working with a lot of youth, I have another question for you. But then this one, let's bring it to Aitan. There's a specific question for you, Andrew. So Aitan, yes, Ethiopian youth, the young people.
Thank you very much. We have experience working in Ethiopian public universities and in promoting of peace, and also changing the attitudes of the youth, especially at university, from negative to positive towards others which are not belonging to ethnic and religious group. One of our program is a Sustained Dialogue Campus Network program. This project is currently involving like 3,000 students in 5 public universities, which is very huge. In one university, we have like 600 participants divided into 50 groups, and in each group there are 12 students, which are doing a year-long dialogue to address their conflicting relationships, and we shape them to go through a very structured stage to change their attitudes so that they can change their neighbors' attitudes and their community attitudes. The first one is who should sit in the dialogue chair, like students coming from different ethnic and religious groups, 12 of them, which comes from sitting in the 12 chairs. Like if one is an Oromo, the other is the Tigrayan, the other is Amhara, Afar, and what different ethnic groups, and also the composition is from different religious groups. And these groups in the second stage, the what stage, discuss what is actually making them fear the life they are living in the universities. Like what are those values which they have to compromise in order to actually live peacefully there? What is disturbing them? What is affecting their identity, their rationality, and like this? And most of the time, it's very interesting to hear their experience that everybody, in a very empathic way, dialogue with a deep listening and understanding. That storytelling coming from all participants changes their attitudes towards others. You feel that the fear I have is also the fear of my brother and the fear of my sister. And after they understand all this, they move to the third stage. We call it the why stage. They ask themselves why we are in this mess, why we are fearing the life we are living in this compound, in this country. And they start to list down all the issues which are actually keeping them in this conflictual relationships. And the 4th stage, how we can do. Now we understand that what's really affecting us, what's really frightening us, what's really making us live a conflictual relationship, but how we can address it. And the 5th stage that we support them at the end of the academic year usually is the at or the now stage. Their change has to be transferred to the whole university community. In one university in Ethiopia, approximately 25,000 students lived. So those 600 students every year has to demonstrate their change to the other 25,000 students in their universities. So we are doing this in 5 universities in Ethiopia, which is like 3,000 students engaged in a dialogue process every year. For the last 7-8 years, almost like 15,000 students pass through this process. And now they are everywhere in different working positions, government responsibilities, leadership places. So the youngs are contributing like this in changing conflictual relationship in Ethiopia. It's all about doing a deep listening and trying to understand the concerns of others, and also taking it as a concern of self, which actually changes the conflictual relationships. That's how we are actually trying to approach this, and the Ethiopian youth can promote peace in this way, through deep listening and transferring that change to the others.
Great job. Great job. A really key area of engagement, the universities. Andrew, you have a question from Henok on YouTube. He asked, how can we create a path for the third way, or you might call it the middle ground, without being caught up by them versus us categories?
Thanks, Henok, for that question. It's extremely important. How do we create third ways between these us versus them categories? I see everyone on the left and on the right as my neighbor. I see the person that is condemned as the enemy as having value. And I choose to build relationship with those people. Again, I'm trying to practice these practices that we discuss in the Neighbor Love movement. I'm moving my feet closer to them. I'm opening my ears to listen to them. I'm speaking with truth, respect, and kindness to all of them, and I'm refusing to insult or to condemn any of them. I'm opening my heart to their pain. Like Aitan said, I'm doing this deep listening to understand what concerns and fears are motivating them, and I'm choosing to build community between these groups. So I think third way solutions are not weak, they're not passive, they require tremendous creativity, tremendous strength and courage, but I'm going to stand between these identity groups, these polarized religions, polarized ethnicities, polarized political affiliations, and ask, what do we share in common with our values and practices? And I'm going to intentionally build relationship. And of course, Henok, that's going to require a lot of courage from you, because people on all sides are going to see you as a betrayer. Oh, Andrew's not a real Christian. Look how he's building relationships with those Muslim people. Oh, Andrew must be part of this political party. He went and talked to that guy. Andrew must have some secret agenda. Look how he's building relationships across boundaries. What is he trying to achieve? You will be misunderstood. You will be labeled. You will be shot at from multiple directions. But what I found is that you build incredible relationships, and there's a deep sense of liberation and joy that comes from these third way creative solutions of saying, I refuse to live in this us-them mentality. Every person is my neighbor. I choose to see and treat them with dignity, and I'm going to build relationships in the way that I speak, in the way that I act, in the way that I write, in the way that I teach, in the way that I do all of my work in my personal and professional life.
Oops. Yeah. Great. Henok really asked a very important question. Obang, I have a question for you. Yes, let me pick this. Okay. Online dialogue platforms, this is Sawit, she asked on Twitter, and she said, online dialogue platforms can be both inclusive in a sense that they are accessible, but they can be also exclusive in a sense that they will not take into account to bridge the digital divide in a context such as Ethiopia, where digital access is privileged and limited. How do we address that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I think that sometimes that we have this opportunity and have the privilege to have this online media, but sometimes these are, we abused it. People abused it, as we know it in our own countries, that some of the people that is only my way or no way. As Andrew was saying earlier, that for example, the kind of platform we have now kind of saying that all of this is our people. There are people who say, no, they are not our people. We don't need them. So, there's, when you go on an online platform, you cannot please everybody. But there are some people who will come in and really wanting to take it to the direction that where they want. I think the people who are running it, who are managing it, they have to be emboldened and be honest and saying that, look, we cannot destroy the whole bag of apple because of one bad apple. And if that those individuals are there, then you tell them, and with respectfully, with respecting their dignity, we disagree with your opinion. There are other people who care. Let those people be the one to come to the platform. So it is not it's not easy, as I was saying, that we are, because people are fighting for domination, and some people wanted to say that our
Oh, Obang, we can.
so difficult to have the real platform that apply to everybody, that really fit everyone. So in that case, I think the answer to your question is this platform, those people who run it should not be deterred, or they should not be really paying attention to the one that who are getting it. So we usually in every even country usually there's the middle ground. So in our country we don't have the middle ground, but the middle ground people should never lose hope, even when there's a real hatred coming. If there's people who are, they should never be distracted. They should always know that this is the place that for those who have a common sense, those who have agreed to disagree to come, this is your home, this is your platform, this is your idea. I think I like what Andrew said earlier, that we are not here to destroy each other, to destroy you, but we are here to kind of just work and find a way to live together. Even within a relationship, in a family, wife and husband, you don't agree all the time, but you don't destroy, you don't kill her, you don't do this. So in our country, in our case, we have to come, we have to come to the sense that where we are today, it could be better only through a dialogue, through talking to each other, through listening to one another. So we should not really, this platform, when there's people who are pushing it, and if we know they have the idea, the extremist agenda, that should not, really distracted us from focusing the bigger picture that we are, or the direction that we are going.
Oh, great. Thank you, Obang. So I have one question. I don't know who would like to answer this, but whoever has the answer, please. Are religious leaders and organizations aware of hate speech? Do they say anything about it? They can reach a wide audience of young people. So what are they doing about it? So Aitan or Andrew, if you have answers for this, please.
Meti, I'll share a quick story. I was talking with a colleague some time ago who is a senior leader in a religious denomination that has a community of many millions of members in Ethiopia. And I asked this person, do you know a pastor who makes justice a central part of their message in their church? Now remember, this is a man who has traveled all over Ethiopia. He has millions of members in the community that he's responsible for. He thought for a moment and he said, no, I haven't met one yet. I think that there's a great need for us to return to these basic messages in our religious teaching about the value of human life as made in the precious image of God, about God's will for all of us to experience security and safety under the law, for us to see justice as a power of healing and restoration rather than justice simply as punishment or revenge, for us to return to the teaching that says to love our neighbor as ourselves. Jesus was asked, what's most important to God? And how do we live a life that never dies? And Jesus said the answer is to love God and to love people. So I think that there's a great need for our religious leaders and our religious communities to return to these core teachings. The Prophet Muhammad said in one of the hadiths that the most noble behavior in the eyes of God is to practice listening with those who disagree with you, to get close to those who see like they're not part of you, and to forgive those who have wronged you. Those kinds of teaching should be given a megaphone in our religious communities. And I think that there's an extraordinary opportunity right now in Ethiopia, because 98% of Ethiopians answer that religion is extremely important to them. And we have the actual physical infrastructure all throughout the country of churches and mosques where there's teaching going on multiple times a week. So if we can rediscover a passion for love, justice, and flourishing, and make this central to the messages that we're teaching, there's extraordinary reason for hope. Extraordinary reason for hope. But I'd like to just say one more thing, Meti. You know, I was in one part of Ethiopia some time ago with some beautiful little children. And we were walking through the countryside together. We were on a hike, and these kids bowed down to their house of worship. They literally put their face in the dust. And I was so moved by their religious devotion and their spirituality. But I asked those kids, hey, what do you think about that ethnic group? And they said, oh, that ethnic group is evil. And I said, okay, what about this other ethnic group? And they said, oh, they're even worse. When their parents came to our community, our parents burned their cars and chased them away. We need to face this contradiction that our own children can be bowing in the dust to a house of worship, and yet there's this deep conflict that's brewing in our community, which is what we've been discussing. So houses of worship can be incredible platforms for speaking messages of human dignity, forgiveness, reconciliation, the common good, justice as healing. And so I'm hopeful.
To add on what Andrew
Yes,
said, you know, religious institutions and leaders have a very good excuse to preach, you know, against hate speech, like the golden rule that you see in the back of me says in all religions you get this verse: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like in Amharic በአንተ ሊደረግብህ የማትፈልገውን ነገር በሰው አታርግ. You can find it in Islam, in Christianity, in Hinduism, in every religion in the world. This verse you can get. So they have a good excuse to, you know, to preach against this hate speech, because, you know, their followers don't want to face hate speech, and they have not to do it also to others.
Yes, precisely, Aitan. There is another question for you, so let me just address that, Aitan. Dr. Ahmed asked, would you please elaborate on students' clubs organized in all Ethiopian universities? That's Dr. Ahmed for you.
Thank you, Gash Ahmed, for asking this. Yes, you know, I think I tried to respond to the question which was related with you know, what young Ethiopians can do to promote peace. The objective of establishing these peace clubs in all universities and the engagement of them in the dialogue process, like the one that I mentioned, is to help them promote peace, change themselves first, and, you know, change the communities they are living in. And, you know, the youth are both the present and the future. In the present, they can involve in you know, constructive peace building activities. They are the future because they will receive, you know, the leadership of this country, and they have to shape it in the way they want. So working on the youth, the very important aspect of the Peace and Development Center. That's why we are establishing peace clubs in all universities, public universities in Ethiopia, and engaging them to discuss on their own conflictual relationship to change it to the positive. And we're working hard on that. And I'm sure starting from next year also, we will expand this peace club and the engagement in the dialogues to 15 universities in Ethiopia, which will try to address 600 in each university, which will be like a huge impact that we will try to bring on.
Thank you for the elaboration, Aitan. So before we conclude our session, is there any question that you feel like you want to add on, or you want to elaborate, you want to say something about, like from all the questions that raised? Because the last questions I was directing to specific participants. So if you feel like I could add something, let me give you the floor. Okay, then yes, Alban, we can't.
Now it's not very clear. For you guys, it's clear. Like there's that noise. Am I the only one? The sound before.
It's been clear so far.
Okay.
Yeah, but is there any question that you wanted to address, which I did not direct to you?
Yeah, no, I think that this kind of dialogue we have here is very good, as Anthony and Andrew say. Was that I think that this is it's a very, very important discussion, and this discussion should not only be left out to people like us. I think the government also that has to be come forward. I think that this idea of peace, when there's a problem, you bring people of religious clothes, they're coming and standing together and then go home, that doesn't work. As I said, that we have to come to the point that really we have a problem as a society. And this problem, it's created by us, it can only be solved by us. And I think that unless we really come to that, no matters. It's not what Ubang do or Anthony does or Andrew does, but what the Ethiopian people do us all together. So I think that we also seem to be focusing here, more on the youth. Yes, like one of the things we try with our groups, as I said, we went to 16 universities last year. We brought all the kids from different regions and met with them and talk to them. So this is, is a good thing. But again, there are some groups that can play a bigger role. Like Andrew said, that the Ethiopian religious institution, they have to really be genuine and honestly. The Ethiopia education system, the education system in our country, that as Anthony put it earlier, is very, very poor. We created a generation of young people who are really don't have a critical thinking in their heart, in their mind, is full of hatred driven by ethnic animosity or this kind of thing and falsehoods idea. So the education system has to really empower these people, teach these kind of people, like, as Andrew was saying, that, there's 5 signs. Don't use your hand to destroy another. Don't use the word to demonize another. Those kind of things, we don't have that. And so the other thing, we don't know each other. Our children don't know each other. We have this system of makalalu, I always say, in Sisana makalalu, that afasawai kalalu. We have this idea where the kid in Gambela have no clue about the kid in Somalia region, and we have these apart region. So even when they go there, they don't know each other. And this is the work that cannot be solved by us. This is the work of the government. The government institution has to be. And above all, we have to be true to ourselves. Those who are leaders, from the top prime minister to the president of the Kabbalah, what we say should be what we mean, not what we just wanting people to hear. And then we should also know that we have this problem that eating has from within. So unless we call this what it is and realize that we are the peoples, we create this problem was created by us. It is us who will solve it. We will not get out of this thing. And then above all, letting people come into it. How can we yield the one? This one is my one. The Amara one is my one. The Tigray one is my one. The Oromo one is my one. And we have to know that whether we like it, if we kill each other, the way the Western will report, Ethiopian kill each other. They will say, Anua kill Amara, Tigray kill Oromo, or this. They will say Ethiopian did that. One way or another, our land made has to be one. And this pain, then we have to know that the pain of all of us. So we cannot leave this alone to just few peoples. The government has to take a big portion. The institution, the religious institution, have a big portion. The education institution has to do the same thing. Even those civils, who are working in the government offices. And when we see something is wrong, we have to call it. Unless we do that, mapos, and unless we cleansing ourselves from these truths, then over the surface, it's not going to work. That's, I think, what I can add on the top of it. We have to be true to ourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Obang. So I will give you each 1 minute to give your closing remarks. But before that, let me just encourage our participants. Please go to the platform and read the peace pledge, because we want to read it. It's in Amharic, Oromifa, Arabic, and Tigrinya, and please sign it, because this will bring us together. And this is also one more step to come together and fight for peace or work on peace building. And also continue the conversation on the platform. And also, what would you do individually to contribute to the peace building process in Ethiopia? So I encourage you all to read the peace pledge and to sign it, and get engaged. So now let me start with Obang, then I'll go to Aitan, and then I'll go to Andrew. Your 1 minute closing remark, Obang.
Okay, again, I would still want you to say that thank you. And what I say earlier, that as our country, as we speak today, there's so many of our people who are suffering. And, they are us. They are us, we are them. So we should never really, really forget about that. And it is, the result of the hatred that makes some of us not to be with us. And, the result of not, valuing one another. So my message today was, we come to this dialogue. This dialogue is nothing special. Each one of you can do it at home. You can do this. If you see something wrong, please talk about it. If you have another family member who is demonizing other people, don't be silent. Speak about it. The healing we are talking about starts within us. I don't want pain to be inflicted on me. The same that I don't want it also that to inflict on another person. As simple as that. We are all created equal. God loves all of us. Our family loves all of us. So those people you are demonized, those who you consider as not you, whether or we like it or not, they are you. So this kind of discussion is more needed in our countries. And, Andrews, as you can see, is not an Ethiopian, but by being a human being, he's an Ethiopian. So we may, say that he's an American by birth, by citizen, by humanity. He's one of us. He's our brothers. And he cares about our well-being, not because, there's certain thing, but because he's a human being. So that's what I mean earlier, being a human carry of responsibility. My question, my message to all of you who are listening today, please, life is too short. We don't know how long we're going to be in this world. Our time is now, when we are alive. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Respect one another. Be a messenger and bringing peace to this country. So to all of you, hate speech is something that can be stopped and start with us. Be nice. Use your word. The word can destroy. The word can build a country. The word can heal. The word can inflict wound. So let's be sure that the kind of word we use is to nurture, not to destroy. So be kind to one another. Love one another. Be a better person, not the kind of person that other person want you to be. That's my message to all of you. Let the dialogue continue. Speak to your family, to your children, to your community. Be Andrew, be Hobang. As Andrew was saying earlier, in our country, we don't have role models, but we have millions of us. Each of us has a role model. Be a role model to your family members. Thank you.
Thank you, Obang. Thank you. Very profound. Aitan, your 1 minute closing remark.
Thank you. I think the key for all this mess is education. We have to work in enhancing the quality of our education as Ethiopians, who should actually create a young generation who critically think and criticize in a right way. If we cannot work on our quality of education, the generations that's coming will definitely engage in these kinds of conflictual relationship, which actually leads to violence. So for the young generation, that I want to say is, all information is not right information. And if it is a right information, it may not be an important information. So it's important to critically think all the informations which you receive through your phones, and through your televisions and whatever. So hopefully enough we'll get out of this mess, and advise all the people to sit down for dialogue, for deep listening, and to the empathic relationships that help us to understand each other in our own conversations. Hopefully enough we'll be fine, and also PDC will continue working on these kinds of engagements, and any support, any help which will be forwarded in this side is a pleasure for us, and our doors is open to discuss anything that builds peace for this country and transform us to the current situation we are in. Thank you.
Thank you, Aitan. It's very important that you're convicted to this, you're dedicated to this. Andrew, your 1 minute closing remark, please.
Hosting this conversation. Obang, Aitan, thank you so much for this dialogue. The way we see others produces the society we see. If we see others as cheap, we tolerate poverty. If we see others as worthless, we accept violence. But if we see the other person as precious, we work for our shared well-being. I want to encourage everyone who's listening, make a covenant today to see and treat the other person as your neighbor. Choose to embrace your body as an instrument of love, to serve and care for the flourishing of your neighbor. Your ears, your eyes, your mouth, your hands, your feet, your heart, your brain. And I want to invite everyone who's listening today, who is the person that you're most tempted to hate? Who is the person that you're most tempted to spread misinformation about? They are your neighbor. Choose to see and treat them with special respect, special care, special dignity. This is the way to our shared future and to a society of healing in which we can all flourish. I'd just like to say in the end that we would love to continue working with universities, high schools, kebeles, mosques, churches, to cultivate a society in which young people are neighbor love ambassadors who see their mission in life as to promote love, justice, and flourishing across all boundaries for all people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Obang, Aitan, Andrew, for your time, for sharing your practical wisdom, your insights from your experience. This has been one of the most profound sessions that we've had. And this is week 3 of the Symposium on Ethiopian Media for Peace. And today's topic was on reducing hate speech and promoting peace dialogue on social media. And next week, we will be back with recommendations, pledges, and commitments from our media people, our media institutions. Before I go, one last time, I ask our attendees, our participants, what would be your commitment, if any, to eradicate information that leads to conflict? So please answer these questions, continue the conversation on social platform, and keep texting, keep tweeting, keep posting on Facebook using #MediaForPeace so that we can continue. And this session, the entire 4th session, has been brought to you by PDCI and EMC, the Ethiopian Media Council, and the event is organized by Flawless Events, and I have been your moderator for the 3 sessions, and I'll be back next week. My name is Meti Shwaye Yilma. Everyone from around the world, thank you for joining us, and make sure that the peace-building dialogue continues wherever you are. And until I see you next week, stay in peace. Good day, good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.